Let's welcome the first politician who's come to listen to your questions and give answers. Please welcome the Shadow Secretary for Home Affairs for Labour, Tony Blair. So let's start with our first question. It comes from Alison Samuels. Where are you, Alison?
You've got the motto, tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. Is there a real policy behind that, or is it just a slogan?
There is a policy behind it. What I believe that you require is to get away from this idea that you choose between either trying to prevent crime and deal with its causes or simply punish the criminal, and that you want a criminal justice system that actually works and is functioning effectively, but also a society that's prepared to act and cooperate in a much better way in preventing crime and tackling some of the underlying causes of crime and dealing with problems like the link between crime and drugs and so forth. And that's the general basis of the policy. And what we've done in each of the areas is try and put forward specific policies to back that up. For example, in relation to juvenile offenders and so forth.
Well, that's a general explanation of what the slogan represents. But in particular, what do you think are the causes of crime? Do you have evidence for what they are, and how specifically are you going to tackle them?
Well, I think there are two elements that I would put into tackling the causes of crime and trying to prevent crime. One is, if you like, prevention in the narrow sense, because only 1 in 50 crimes ever actually leads to a conviction. And so it's important, for example, that in local areas, we've suggested that you set up new partnerships between the police, local authorities, local schools, local businesses, where they get together, they sit round a table, they target the crime priorities in their own individual area and then take the measures most appropriate to that area. And there are areas of the country where they've been trying that approach and it's actually worked. So there's that narrow element of prevention. And then there's the broader element. I mean, this is just a personal view, but I think that the real problem that we face is that many of our young people are growing up in circumstances where they don't have much of a stake in society, where their environment is characterized, if you like, by family instability, by drugs, poverty, poor educational opportunity, high levels of youth unemployment. And I think it is also important that we try and tackle those causes as well.
Let's take another question. Nigel Trumper, where are you? Yes, up here.
We know from the experts, or at least we've heard from the so-called experts and an ex-criminal, that unemployment is not the root cause of crime. But your party and you link the two together. How can you justify that?
I don't think that unemployment causes crime in the sense that people who become unemployed rush out and commit criminal offences. But I think that we have got a real problem in this country in creating what I would call a sort of subculture of which unemployment and high levels of unemployment in the family are a part, but where kids grow up just without the basic stable factors that go to make up a decent and law-abiding community. And I think that employment and jobs is one part of that. I mean, if people feel they've got the prospect of going out and getting a job, and if their mother or father are working and bringing in a working wage, then I think people feel they've got much more of a stake in society. They belong much more to society.
Let's take another question. Stan Norton, where are you? Yes.
If our group is representative of public opinion, the general feeling is that harsher sentences and longer sentences should be the norm to punish the criminal, and that would be the answer to crime. What do you feel?
Firstly, I think that harsher sentences by themselves are not going to work in this area. I think it's the easiest form of political rhetoric. It's probably the most popular. But I don't think in themselves they are going to cure the problem. But the second thing I would say is that I would take consistency of sentencing before I think I would take necessarily in individual cases longer sentences. And I think that is where we need much more sensitive court systems, better guidelines for judges, perhaps judges that are occasionally a bit more in touch with ordinary people than sometimes they are. And I think that the odd case of bad sentencing serves to undermine the whole system to a much greater degree than we ever realise. And therefore I would like to see You know, sure, in certain circumstances, I think we do have to get tougher, but I think it's got to be part of an overall programme that brings us better and more consistent sentencing, and also means that sentencing is just one part of the reform of the criminal justice system.